So you're gonna show where you stretch all those people? So you're gonna show us the dungeon?
I might try to show a move or two.
Yeah. I'll take some moves, sir.
Do you feel that?
Oh yes, sir. I don't feel my arms, sir. I can feel it.
Can you feel that, son?
Oh yes, sir.
Red here,
Oh yeah.
rosy.
Yes, sir.
And by taking this arm back here,
No.
you just ease his hand in the position here. I got the power here to...
Stop it, sir. Stop.
You're listening to Heartbeat Radio.
And good afternoon, great fans of Heartbeat Radio. Bob Johnson coming to you live from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, home of the world-famous Hart family. Man, do we have a great show for you fans of Heartbeat Radio worldwide today. One of the truly the greatest heels of Stampede Wrestling, and a really good guy, Dr. D, David Schultz. Be bringing him on in a couple of minutes. Also, we'll be bringing on John Cosper to discuss Dr. D's new book, Don't Call Me Fake. And welcome our co-host from Portland Wrestling, Mr. Matt Merz.
It's always a pleasure to be on Heartbeat Radio. I'm very excited because Dr. D is infamous in Portland for an incredible feud with Buddy Rose, where it was kind of a heel versus heel feud that people still talk about today, 35 years later. So this should be a pretty exciting show. Let's get Bruce on here and get going.
Wrestler, booker, promoter, author, Mr. Bruce Hart. Welcome back to Heartbeat Radio, live from Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
David Schultz was one of Stu's all-time favorite heels, and he was a great mentor and a great leader up for us. We had a lot of young baby faces at that time, like my brother Brett and Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy, and they all loved to work with David, and they all told me they learned so much just about ring psychology, and he was also a great influence on a lot of the young heels up there because, he used to cut these incredible promos, and I have no doubt whatsoever, if he had if that thing hadn't happened with Stossel and all like that he would be one of those iconic heels that everyone talks about today, like a Stone Cold Steve Austin or a Macho Man or something like that, because he was every bit as charismatic and, dynamic in the ring as any of those guys, and he was kind of right in on the ground floor, and should be fun.
I'm going to bring on, first of all, the author of Dr. D's new book, is Mr. John Cosper, and I'd like to also bring on Dr. D himself, David Schultz. Welcome to Heartbeat Radio.
Hi, it's great to be here, let me tell you. Bruce is kind of, I hate to tell him he's mistaken, I was the best heel. Nobody compared to me. And they all loved my interviews because I was a rich woman's lover and a poor girl's dream. And, those women around Canada remembered me. I'm probably the greatest that ever walked into that ring and come out. I turned down nobody. I wrestled everybody. I wrestled their brothers, their cousins, their sisters. Only one I turned down was Stu. I didn't want to get in the ring with Stu.
I think Stu wanted to. He was kind of
yeah.
At the same time, I think he valued you too much. I wouldn't really take anything away from him. It might bring his value down if he had to go in with me or something like that. But the other guy who really loved you was Ed Whalen. He told me many a time that you were the best heel he ever had. He enjoyed interacting with you more than any other heel on the mic, And
you had a lot of good people up there, a lot of good people to work with, and you always kept the talent fresh. You didn't have to look at the same people for year and year after year after. You kept bringing in different people from different places, and all of them come in with the hope that they get to Dr. D and get a hold of him and make him sorry he ever got in wrestling, but that never happened.
They would ask me if they could work with you, but they were always nervous. Like Davey Boy, he always would tell me he'd like to work with you, but he was half intimidated and saying he wasn't sure if he was up to your standard yet, and he didn't know if he could talk anywhere near like you. But yeah, the good thing about it is you always had great matches with them, and you always made them look better than they thought they could, And
well, you was in the ring with me a few times.
Oh yeah, I loved it. I remember those matches, me and Brett against you and Dynamite, and
yeah.
I remember the the crowd reaction was always on fire. There was incredible, kind of atmosphere in there, and fans trying to have, they were trying to hit the ring and all that stuff. I remember a few times when the Marks did hit the ring, and there was hell to pay for it if they did, And
that's right. They had to pay. That's what it's all about. I loved Canada. I loved being out there about 3 years, and I loved the people. They was always great people. Even though they didn't understand me, I was misunderstood. But I think they really liked me.
That was almost to your advantage. It was almost better
exactly.
They didn't.
Yeah, it really was good up there. A good place to work, and the guys were great, and Brett and you, and the first Hart I ever met was Keith. Keith was a great worker. He just didn't want to put in the time to do it. He'd rather put out fires.
Yeah, I remember the other guy who was one of your biggest fans, as you know, was Leo Burke.
Leo was a hell of a guy, man. He was good in the ring, just like it takes two people in that ring, and when you got a good heel and you got a good babyface, it makes the job so easy. I mean, it's so much easier. If you go out there, I don't care if you're the greatest babyface ever, Leo. If that heel don't know how to get the heat, the reaction from the people, the timing, it's useless. It just makes it a hard night. But when you go out and you know how to do that and you work together and both of you connect, it's so easy.
And, it was very old school, I remember you and Leo or you and Brett, and you never see too many needless high spots. Nowadays I see damn near every match I watch on WWE is just high spot fests, and it looks so damn choreographed. You don't take it seriously anyway. But I remember when you would be working with Brett or Leo, and you guys are doing longer matches, 40, 50-minute matches, and crowd would be going nuts. And the other part of it that I don't like these days is you see all these guys cutting promos that are not capable of cutting a promo.
I tell you, it's pathetic. These guys, they're not trained good enough. They don't know how to do anything. They couldn't take care of themselves on the street. They're not capable of taking care of themselves in the ring, and they definitely can't talk, like you said. They have no idea what to say or when to say. Our fans, when they left there, they was happy and mad. They wanted to see me get beat so bad.
Trump, they were clamoring to come back next week. It was every week it was like, I got to see Brett and Schultz next week, or I got to see Davey and Schultz, I got to see Leo Burke and Dr. D, go at it again, and you always left something hanging. There's always some reason to come back and see the last, the next extension of the ongoing soap opera type thing.
That's right.
Now, Dr. D, let me ask real quick. Were you born with the gift of gab, or is it something you picked up after some time in the business?
Well, no, I was that way. I've been that way my whole life. I just, I was a poor boy down in Tennessee, and everybody asked me, a guy the other day on the radio, he talking to me, he said, the Schultz boys, nobody messed around with you guys. I said, no, they didn't mess around with us because they knew we was poor. If we kept what we had to fight for it. We was in a bad part of town, and, if you wanted to go out on the street at night, you better be able to take care of yourself or they take everything away from you. Well, I never did lose nothing. I kept everything I had. And, talking just easy. If you're running people down, you just got to be careful and not make them too mad. I've had people get so darn mad. They come out and cut my tires, set my car on fire. They tried to kidnap my daughter there in Calgary one time at school, and the RCMP called them. And, it gets bad. It gets real bad. So
you seem to have that innate sense of how far you could take it, and you always wanted to have them close to boiling point, but you didn't want them to quite boil over, and
that's right. That's right.
And guys like you were more than capable of allowing them to believe. You didn't insult their intelligence, or you didn't throw a punch that didn't look like it, was real, or everything you did was pretty real and So I said before, there wasn't that many high spots or any of that other bullshit, you know.
I could go out and grab an arm, and you go 30 minutes and never get off that arm. Be on that arm the whole show. All these guys going out there flying all over the place trying to do this, and all I do is go out and grab a headlock or an arm like the old days, like, you know, when Stu wrestled, you know, he'd get out there and get a headlock, and that headlock is all he'd get. He'd work that neck, work it all the time, you know.
It seemed like a simple formula, and I don't know what the hell's happened where they seem to have completely lost that sense, you know. Even the heels these days, you know, I see very few heels that have any real heat. Who were some of the guys, Dave, that had a big influence on you when you were first breaking in? I remember hearing names like Roy Welch and Lester Welch and
Herb Welch trained me, and he got me started, and he told me, he said, don't go outside and talk to the fans and sign their autographs if you're a heel, because if you do, people see you doing that, they'll go, he's not that bad a guy, you know. So I tried to go
which is not what you want,
my start and leave, you know. And but far as the other guys, they was all copying me. I mean, I didn't know any big heels that, you know, of course, Harley Race was a heck of a worker, and Dory, Terry Funk,
and
you know,
those guys always spoke very well. I remember when they came up here for us, they all always spoke very highly of you too. I remember Harley. He was always trying to tell Stu, he was going to try to steal you for his territory.
Yeah.
Something like that, you know. But they spoke very respectfully of you, you know.
Well, you know, they didn't want to talk bad about me because they knew they had to go in the ring with me one day.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I remember.
He's a hell of a guy. And then when you turn your back, they say, oh, man, don't mess with him. And then they come back, they go, oh, no, he's a good guy. Oh, man, what a nice guy, you know. And
now, did you grow up on wrestling, Dr. D, or was it something you discovered later on?
No, it came later on. I was just went down to see Herb Welch, and he agreed to train me, and that's when I got into it. I never watched it. Very seldom I watched it on TV. And back there was Tex McKenzie and Bobo Brazil and the Kelly twins, and you know, and these guys was all good workers, but they didn't have the I don't know, it was the knowledge, or they were just trying to get in the ring, get the money, and leave. You know, and like
a lot of them never seem to get it.
That's right, exactly. They just never understand. They never know. They don't know about timing. They don't know anything going on, boom, 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 and they have no idea what they're doing. And it's like a play in there. It's like an orchestra thing. You start people out, and you take them all the way to the top in the first 2 or 3 minutes, and they fall back down. That's it. It's over. You'll never get them back up there again. You got to walk them in there and get them up there, you know. And it's something that you acquire over the years, knowing people. When I got started, Herb Welch had me go to, like, Malden, Missouri every week, and it's a little town, like, second floor upstairs, and it would be packed to the rafters. And, man, the old women throw scissors in the ring at you, and the police wasn't smart at all. They will hit you with the blackjacks. And, you know, I'd wrestle 8 or 10 times a night sometime, you know, as a masked man, as 6-man tag, a tag, and everything. But Herb said that's what you got to do to get used to the people. And that was very important. You know, I'd hit the road. I'd leave the house with $25 in my pocket, and I'd drive 300 miles, and I got back, I'd have $10 in my pocket. You know, I'd make $15, $20 for that night, and work for 3 hours, you know, go out, like I said, a single, and then a tag, and then a 6-man tag, and then a mass match, and then a battle royal, and then this, you know. But that's what he said.
That kind of made you appreciate it, you know, and I'm sure that was even a factor when you got that ass John Stossel taking cheap shots, you know. A lot of guys don't realize that, you know, when you're paying your dues, and that was a big part of that whole mindset with Stu in the dungeon, you know, stretching guys down there and making them respect the business. And then you got some indifferent asshole who's doing a 20/20 or just just trying to take cheap shots, you know. And my dad was always very pissed off with a lot of the wrestlers that didn't support you 100%. And my dad was always saying Schultz was the only guy who stood up for the damn business, and he should have been commended and admired for that.
Well, it's I know John here has he's been around a while wrestling, but he's been around a lot of the old timers, a lot of the shooters in Louisville and the brawlers and all that. He's been around more of them than I have because he wrote these books on them, you know. And John can tell you the same thing. These guys are really, you know, there's a lot of tough guys out there, and but you have to get that name as tough. You know, I had one guy one time, I don't remember who it was, Bruce, but he kept on. He said, I'd like to be where you're at. And I said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just lay down and let you beat me. How's that? You win. You beat me, and then get the word out that you beat me in the ring. And he said, why would you do that? I said, go ahead. See how many people come after you then. You beat me, you're going to have them lined up to get you. I don't think he understood what I was saying, but, you know, I was willing to let him beat me, just shut his mouth up and see how many guys would tear his ass up, you know.
I was going to ask you, John, where are you putting the book? Would it be in markets or like we could actually buy it off a shelf or anything like that?
Folks who want to get an autographed copy can actually still contact me through my website, eatsleepwrestle.com. We get you an autographed copy actually straight from Dr. D. Right now, unfortunately, we don't have any kind of distribution in stores, but, I mean, you know, the more fans go out there, the more people talk about it, you know, the more likely it is. You know, we can get picked up by a major chain and somebody might carry it. We can get that distribution, which we'd certainly love to see. Dave's got an incredible story, and it's not just about the wrestling, but his bounty hunting career afterwards.
I would think the bounty hunting stuff would be equally compelling. You got to have a pretty thick skin and, you know, have a lot of courage to be doing that. You can't be too weak-spirited or wishy-washy in that business, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm actually kind of surprised with the success of Dog the Bounty Hunter on television a few years ago that Dr. D has never been approached since he has so much more mainstream notoriety.
He's way more charismatic and colorful than Dog the Bounty Hunter, and maybe probably a lot tougher too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of the bail bondsmen I talked to, they said there's no comparison. If they had a choice to send Dr. D after somebody or send Dog, they'd send Dr. D every time. It was a combination of me. You know, 6'5", 6'7", got that dominating presence pounding on your door saying bail enforcement. He's got to take a guy down. You know, Herb Welch taught him well. He can take a guy down, but most of the time he's using that Southern charm, and he's convincing Grandma, he's convincing Mom to give somebody up, and he knew how to turn it on, and he knew how to work somebody. You know, just the same. It's just the same as working in wrestling.
Oh yeah, you can't waver in the clutch. You know, and when the heat is on, you can't kind of lose your nerve or whatever. You got to kind of go for it.
John, I'm just reading here that he arrested over 1,700 fugitives.
I've seen some of his notebooks and pages, and he'd be tracking, you know, he'd have files on 10, 20 people at a time, and, you know, one person he'd be tracking and trying to find in Illinois. He'd be trying to find somebody in Puerto Rico, down in Texas. And he could, you know, he knew no boundaries. You know, it's actually illegal in the state of Illinois to go to bounty hunt. But I mein, he went in. He got 3 people at a time. I had him sign a letter saying they were turning themselves in. Brought 3 people straight out of Illinois back to Connecticut. He was just that good at working people and getting them. You know, and what he did was, you know, he kind of brought them along, and, you know, he kind of convinced them, you know, running away from the law is not the right thing to do. You know, if you go to court, if you do your time and everything like this, you know, you're going to get back out. You're going to be able to get back with your family, take care of stuff. And, most of the people there, you know, when they ran, they were scared and they were nervous. They didn't know what was going to happen. And, you know, he really kind of bring them along and let them know, you know, this isn't the right way to handle things. And most of the time get them to turn themselves back in. I set up a Facebook page for Dr. D, and where we've been promoting the book and everything. And there's a number of video clips that I put up there from hard copy, and there was a story that Fuji TV from Japan did on them. One of the clips I shared from that was him knocking a bedroom door down, and this guy is all excited because he's going to jail with Dr. D. Japanese reporter asking him, "You know Dr. D? Are you kidding me? I want to get his autograph. I can't believe I'm going to jail with Dr. D. This is great." He's just thrilled to death. So the guy who's dragging him back to jail is Dr. David Schultz. So that's my other favorite clip, I don't know if it's up there yet, is it's him and another guy. They're on either side of the door. The cameraman sits up straight out from the door, and David's partner looks at the camera guy and says, "You might want to move out of the way. So the bullet's coming through that door. It's coming right where you're standing." So, but just kind of shows you how it was out there. And he could tell you stories. I know he pulled a lot of ribs on guys on those long car drives up in Canada. I don't know that I would have wanted to go on a bounty hunting trip with him, because when you're sitting around the hotel and you got a lot of time to think, you start looking at that guy you're staring at 24 hours a day waiting for the phone to ring, start pulling stuff on them as well. And but there's some good stories about not only ribs from his wrestling days, but also while he was out on the road. And things just sort of happened.
Were a lot of Dave's bounty hunting, was it confined to a certain part of the country, or is it all over the country, or did he do any international things as well?
Most of them the skits were they had skipped court in Connecticut, but they could have headed almost anywhere. He went to Puerto Rico a number of times. He went to Egypt and Santo Domingo, up all over the world, and there was no place they could run and hide from him. He would find somebody to get somebody up. And even back in those days when you didn't have cell phones, you didn't have GPS and everything, there are ways to find people, and he just knew how to work people and knew how to find the answers.
I was going to ask Dave somewhat facetiously, did he ever have to track down any of the boys?
No, I'm back. I heard that. I sure have been hoping for one, though, but I can't. It seems like they're staying clear of me, I brought in government officials. I brought in mayors of towns. I brought in bankers. I mean, I brought them. Everybody, all walks of life, man. You wouldn't believe the people that I had brought in. If you give them a chance, they will cut you or shoot you or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. You can't. You can't let your guard down for a sec with those guys.
That's right. That's right. And people don't understand when you're putting a man. You kick a door down, you drag a guy out of bed, and he's got a .357 Magnum under the pillow. It's a different scenario down in the United States than it is in Canada, because I know the gun law in Canada is much more relaxed. I mean, it's a no-no. The United States, everybody's got a gun just about. Even though they don't have a permit, they got a gun and they're sleeping on it, or it's under the mattress, or the girl's got it, and when you find the gun, you say, "Now whose gun is this?" The guy, "Oh, it ain't mine, man. I don't know how it got there."
Yeah, if you let your guard down for 2 seconds, that they got their damn hand on the trigger, and they're.
Oh, Have you ever been shot at, Dr. D?
Well, I've been shot. They shot in the area where I was at, out in the woods, but I don't think they were shooting at me. They were just trying to scare us, and that didn't work. We went in and drug the guy out of the house, and then they said they were just shooting to have fun. They didn't know we was out there, but I'm sure for us having to shoot anybody or get shot at, I come close a lot of times, but I always got the guys so quick they didn't know what hit them. I mean, I'd get them in a restaurant sitting there eating. I'd get them walking out the door. I'd get them in their car. You go to New York City and you got 2,000 families in a low-income, housing project in one building, and you got to go in there and get one guy out. And there was a guy the other day said, "Oh, I was scared or something." I said, "You don't know what scared is, man. You know what scared is? It's in the Bronx, down at the Grand Concourse near Hell's Kitchen, New York, and go down there at 3 o'clock in the morning by yourself and bring in one guy out of that building with 2,000 families in that building, and you're the only white guy in the area because that's just part of town he was in, And I'd go to New York 3 o'clock in the morning by myself and pick people up. You can't pick people up during the daytime in New York City because they're all sleeping or whatever. They get up feeding time, I call it, for the drugs and selling the drugs, people going to work or whatever. That's a very dangerous place there. And I didn't have any problem there. I had a snitch line that run miles long, man. The FBI come to me, and several occasions they couldn't find people. There was a story in that book, I'll let you read about it, that 2 girls got kidnapped, and the FBI looked for them for 3 years, couldn't find them. I found them in 6 months with the guy that kidnapped them in another country and brought them all home. And, I mean, you know, they would call me a lot of times, ATF, DEA. See, a bounty hunter can do a lot of things the police or anybody else can't do if you're looking for a person that's got bail. A lot of the states don't allow bounty hunters now in the United States. They've got strict laws. You can't even come into the state and look for people. And I always did. I didn't have any problem, you know. And I brought them back from San Domingo, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Egypt, Cairo, Egypt. I had them come to the United States and call me and want to turn themselves in as soon as they got here for me, because they didn't want the police to get them. And if they turned themselves into me, see, they was in my custody and the police can't take them away from me. So, and I'd help them out. I'd take them in and, you know, get off the bond, and then I'd bond them right back out because I was a bail bondsman too. So I was making money on both ends.
Do the police mostly help you, Dave, or are they? What's their general reaction?
Well, New York City is very cooperative if you check in and let them know you're in that area. Now, if you go in there and they don't know you're there, it's a whole different story. And there's a story about one time I didn't have time to check in, and you can read about that in the book too, what happened to me. But, I mean, you know, I don't want to tell you about the story. I want you to read the book about it. But, you know, I would go into some towns, and like Illinois, I went to Chicago, and I was going over these guys' house, so I checked in with the police. He said, you can't get these people out of Illinois. We don't recognize bondsmen. If you get them and you bust in that house, you're going to jail. And I said, well, about 3 o'clock tomorrow morning, you just well be here because I'm going in that house, and I'm taking them people out. So what I did, I went to the house, knocked on the door. They let me come in, and I explained to them that if they didn't go with me voluntarily, that the police was going to come down and lock them up in Cook County Jail, which is Chicago jail, one of the worst in the country. And they'll sit there for 30 days, and then they'll get extradited back to Connecticut. And they agreed to go with me and wrote out a paper that they turned themselves into me voluntarily so nobody could say I handcuffed and took them out of state. As soon as I got across the state line, of course, I handcuffed them and took them on to Connecticut. The next morning, the guy comes out to the court, and it was his wife and his daughter and him. The wife runs up there and gives the judge the paper and said, oh, Your Honor, Mr. Schultz, we turned ourselves into him. And the judge looked at me and said, David, you still giving out these false papers, these phony papers? And I said, yeah, it's about the best way to get them in here. And he just tore it up and threw it in the garbage. He said, that ain't no good in this court. But it keeps you from going to jail or breaking the law. You know, you might be lying to them, but, you know, one lie deserves another one, I guess. You gotta use every way you can to get these people in because they're running, man. They're scared, and a scared man will hurt you if you get a chance.
Oh, absolutely. They'll shoot you or do whatever they can, you know, and nobody's going to be giving you a hug or high-fiving you when you walk in that door. And it's nice to see you again or any of that. You know, you got to recognize, you know, it's pretty tense.
Oh, yeah. I got one guy, he raped a 3-year-old girl, and I finally got him in the building. One of the neighbors called me and told me he was there after about 2 months running him all over the country. He came back to see his wife, and I come in there and got him, and time the police got there, I'd already fought him all the way down the steps, tore his ear loose. I guess about a half inch, his ear was hanging on his head, the rest of it dangling, and blood everywhere. And I had him out in the middle of the street with a gun to his head when the police come up, and they said, oh, man, we've been wanting this guy a long time, Doc. I said, great job. And I said, well, that one right over on the corner, I'm fixing to shoot him. And they come over and got him. That was his brother. And they locked him up, too, because he had a gun on him. You know, situations just happen that you're lucky you get out without getting shot.
It's probably a hell of a lot of tension. You know, you get out of there after a day like that, you kind of must wonder if you want to stay in that business, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty good money. Pretty good money. Hey,
yeah.
I did big bonds. I'm talking about murderers, rapists, bank robbers. I mean, I got some of my paydays was $40,000 for bringing some of these people in. You know, you don't get those overnight though. Now it takes about 6 months, 8 months to track these people down. See, when a person jumps bail, they go to jail and they get a bondsman, and a bondsman bonds them out, say $250,000. If that person don't come to court, the person that signed that bond has to pay that $250,000, be his mother, his cousin, uncle, or whatever, or they lose their house and everything. So when you take off after this guy, now the bondsman goes to the house. The court gives them papers and said, hey, you got to bring this guy in or either pay us $250,000. So they got about 6 months to get the guy in. So the bondsman will go to the house, and they'll threaten the mother and the father and the brother and threaten to take their house and scare them to death. Now the skip takes off. You know, the guy we had bonded out, he takes off, and he's scared to death because the bondsman doesn't threaten to take the house. I mean, it really gets hard. But then I have to go out there. They call me, and I get all my paperwork together, and, you know, I have to start from zero. I go to the house, and they're all mad and hell about everything, and I have to calm them down and tell them that, you know, I'm not a bondsman. I'm just doing this for the insurance company, blah, 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 blah. And after about 3 or 4 visits to the house and getting them on my side, most of the time they tell me where they're at, because I tell them, I say, listen, if I don't get him, the police is going to get him. And the word is that he's got a gun. Now, that really gets them upset when they hear that. I said, you know what's going to happen? The police think he's got a gun, they're going to shoot him, more likely. Now they really get upset. I said, if you tell me where he is, I'll go get him, I'll bring him in, and I'll help him get back out again. We'll get this thing settled and get it straightened out. And most of them would tell me where they're at or give me a telephone number where they're at, and then I'd get the address and the telephone number, and I'd have to take off immediately to go get him because he'd be in California or Seattle or anywhere, you know. But you got to go because they start thinking about what they did. Now they want to change their mind, and they call the skip and go, oh, he's coming after you. Somebody told him where you at, you know. So it's a hard decision to jump on a plane after somebody telling you something. Like Puerto Rico, I did a lot of work out of Puerto Rico, man. But I had a captain.
That's a pretty dangerous place.
Yes, but I had a captain. Every time I went down there, he was on my list, and I would pay him $500, give him the address. They'd go get the guy and bring him to me. Most of the time they get him because, you know, there's jungles down there. No, people don't even speak English in some of them towns.
Did you ever have to, like, kayfabe your identity or any of that thing? Like,
I didn't care if they know me, but, you know, I never had but 5 people that really wanted to fight me that I picked up. And I picked up thousands. And I had 5 drug dealers at different times told me, you ain't taking me to jail. I said, oh, yeah, I'm taking you to, oh, yeah. And I'd hand my gun to my partner. I'd have a partner with me. I'd hand my gun, and I'd just run into the guy and grab him, suplex him over the couch, hook him, handcuff him, and he's screaming. And I'm dragging him down the steps outside New York City, 3 stories, dragging him down the steps, wouldn't even get to his feet. Got my hands wrapped up in his hair, and the cops would come up, and, they said, boy, I wish we could do that. And they can't do that, see. And I tell the skip, I say, hey, see, now you're nothing but a punk, man. And them people back there are going to take your drugs, they're going to take your women, they're going to take everything you got because you're going to jail for a long time. And just because you're smart mouth, all you had to do is say, okay, Doc, let's go. And it wouldn't have been any of that. But no, you wanted to tell me I wasn't going to take you. Oh, yeah, I'm going to take you. My baby needs a new pair of shoes, you know. Peggy needs a pair of shoes. I got to get some money somewhere.
Well, now, not to digress, but I want to talk about another guy who was running scared from Dr. D back in 1982 when the Doc came through Portland, Oregon, and taught Buddy Rose a thing or two in the ring. Do you have any fond memories of Portland?
You know, Portland was a small man territory. And when I went down to Portland, Don Owens, you know, he didn't like big guys. And Buddy Rose wasn't a big guy. He was a fat guy, but he wasn't that tall. And he was a good worker, but he thought he was better than he was. We had a lot of battles there, but he liked it because we made money and drew money, and he didn't have anybody there he could draw money with until I came in. And but Buddy, he was a good worker, and he had Don Owens wrapped around his finger, anything he wanted to do. And Don didn't like me because I was, I was bigger than all the rest of them. I walked around like a land of the giant, me and the giant and all the midgets around there or something, or little people or whatever. But Buddy didn't like me there because I was taking a lot of the, I was getting over so good that he wasn't getting over no more because we'd go in the ring and I'd work him to death. I'd make him work hard, and he didn't like that. If he wanted to go in the ring, beat the hell out of everybody and leave, and that didn't happen with me. And of course Rocky Johnson was down there at that time, and he was a pretty big boy too. But Don just didn't like big guys, and finally I had to just pack up and go. You
had a pretty good run down there, Dave. I remember you sent that one guy up there, and he turned out to be a pretty good worker. But a guy, Bill Haynes or whatever, I think you sent him up from Portland to Calgary.
That's right,
and then,
Billy Jack. And,
and he had a pretty good run until I don't know what exactly happened. He was like making money for Vince and all, and then he, I'm not sure if he self-destructed or what happened to him, but he was a pretty, kind of over baby face for a stretch there as Billy Jack, and he was a huge fan of yours, though he was always raving about you down in Portland. You were kind of like his mentor or his idol type thing, but.
Yeah, Billy Jack, and he had another friend with him, and they wanted me to work out with him. I said, man, I ain't got time to work out with nobody. I was on the road all the time.
Another guy that you kind of launched up in Calgary was old Wayne Ferris. I didn't know what. Or you brought him in as a face initially, and you guys had a hell of a run up here, and then I think we switched you face, and he was healing against you, and you guys did great business. And I haven't heard from Wayne for years, but you were like one of the guys who really launched him.
Yep.
Yeah. You ever hear from him anymore?
No, I don't hear from him. I see him at the conventions every once in a while. I go to a convention. Very seldom I go because, they want me to go for what other people go for, money-wise. And when I tell them what I want, they just about go, the phone goes blank, and you think they had a heart attack or something. But, but I told them, I said, hey, I'm not going anywhere for what you pay these guys. I can get you that right now, not me. And so I go a couple times a year, and that's enough for me. The more you go, the less people want to see you. And,
familiarity breeds contempt. Or whatever the hell
exactly.
Pretty good on the mic, old Wayne. My dad said he was half full of shit, but he seemed to know how to market it, and
as a guitar man.
And you also teamed up with Dennis Condrey, too, down there in Tennessee for a while. I know that's a pretty memorable part of your career for a lot of fans in that region. You have any memories of working with Dennis?
Yes, I talk to him about every 2 or 3 weeks. I'll give him a call, and he's got a large family now, 3 or 4 kids, and I hadn't seen him. I just talked to him on the phone and stuff, and one heck of a guy, man. Always depend on him. He was always there, and we had a good run, and everywhere in Tennessee and Knoxville and Florida, and good tag team partner.
Did you have any involvement, Dave, with, I assume you had a bit with old Jerry Lawler before you came up?
Well, we worked the same territory, Memphis, and Lawler was kind of like he bought into the Memphis territory, the way I understand it, with Jerry when Nick Gulas sold out.
Was that Andy Kaufman thing? Were you before or after that?
I was there when that was going on. Yeah.
Yeah, all the work, I assume,
Yes.
They seem to get some reaction to it, though,
oh, yeah.
So I recall,
it was all the work. Jerry Lawler is not a tough guy. I told him one day, I said, my wife will whoop your ass, boy. And he said, well, I probably would. Yeah, I'm telling you she will. Don't act like you're tough around me, And, when we was partners, I used to have to take guns away from people. And, we coming out of the building, Jerry wouldn't fight nobody. And people wanting to fight, so I'd walk up, knock them out. And I'd say, why don't you fight these people, Jerry? Why don't you protect yourself? Well, hell, you hit them before I had a chance. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. I ain't got time to talk to these people, you know. I mean, you know they're going to knock the hell out of you. They get a chance, so go ahead and hit them. Don't sit there and talk about it afterwards. I know I had a couple of hockey stick incidents up there. Those hockey sticks work wonders, you know. I still got one that I used on a few people up there.
Was Ron Fuller and that bunch around there then, or are they? I know they had some hockey team, or I heard something like that, but.
Yeah, I think Ron kind of got out of the wrestling and went to the hockey team up around Knoxville. And I believe Ron now is in Tampa, Florida, and he runs that ADT. He bought ADT down in Tampa, Florida, that area. But Ron was he was a business. I mean, he wanted to do businessman, but he still never paid anybody like they should have been paid, you know. And come to find out later, that's you know, he got out of it. But he always.
My dad told me they were originally Welch's. They just changed their name or something like that.
That's right.
Something like that.
Buddy Fuller.
Buddy Fuller was Lester Welch, or.
Well, Buddy Fuller was their father, and he was a Welch, and then Buddy Fuller, you know, the Robert and Ron Fuller, and then they come in with Nick Gulas. And then they started working, and then they just started their own territory with Buddy Fuller. He was in there with Nick Gulas and Roy Welch and all them, you know. And
was Roy Welch, he was related to Buddy? Or I remember I see him the odd time at the old NWA, him and that old fart Nick Gulas.
Well, it was so many of the Welches and Fullers and all that together. And
Fieldses.
Buddy was in there with Roy Welch, And then you had Christine Jarrett.
Lee Fields and...
Yep, Lee Fields and all those guys was together.
Jimmy
Speedy
Golden.
Yep. It was kind of like the whole general area was Fullers and Welches, and Nick Gulas was in Nashville, and he was kind of like the papa of all of them. You know, he owned all the territory. When Nick Gulas started out, he told me he used to put out posters, and the wrestlers he'd be in the back seat and on the floorboard, and the wrestlers put their feet on him. And then he'd get out. Well, when they went wrestling, he'd get out at a town and start postering the buildings and stuff. And after he did that, putting posters out, after a while, he would ask Roy and Buddy and all of them, "Can I do this? Can I do this town?" And they said, "Yeah, go put the posters out. If it draws anything." And then he went from there a little further, and then all of a sudden he owned territory. So he worked his way right up there, you know.
I always used to just hear about it, you know, and it seemed like they had more Nick Gulas stories than Roy Welch stories, you know, and George Gulas, you know, the kid, you know, Daddy says go down.
Oh, Georgie boy. Yeah, Georgie boy. My daddy told me that you was going to have to do this for me tonight. I said, go tell your daddy, Blake, I ain't no And Nick come over and say, "Boy, why are you talking to my boy like that?" I said, "Hell, I'm gonna do worse than that to him, Nick, getting that damn ring." And he said, "You better leave my boy alone." And you know, but it's kind of like having fun too, you know, at that time. But I don't know how he ever put George in the ring. I never did understand why Vern Gagne put his son in the ring either. But you know, I can understand why Stu put y'all in the ring because y'all knew what you was doing. I mean, these boys was dumb. They was dumb in the stump, you know.
I remember I met George Gulas one time, and he didn't look the least bit like a wrestler. You know, kind of soft, big.
Oh, yeah, he's soft.
Pot belly, and he seemed like he was intimidated or afraid of even being in there, you know. And
oh yeah, he
I don't recall ever seeing him work.
He could not work. When you say work, he could not work. He couldn't do anything. If you didn't do it for him, he was totally lost. And then when you hit him a little bit too hard, he'd go tell his daddy. He said, "I'm gonna have to tell my daddy you hit me too hard. Oh, get out of my face!" I'd kick him out of the dressing room. It gets bad, you know. And that become my MO, you know, with New York, WWL. I'd kick people out of the dressing room. I don't care who it was, TV, producer, the building owner, whoever. They come in the dressing room, they didn't have a license for that state, I'd kick them out. I was told several times, you need to leave these people alone. No, you need to keep them out of the dressing room. So they got there. Well, when I went in buildings, they wouldn't even come down near me, around me.
What was it like working with Mr. T back then?
Oh, yeah, he was, Mr. T, he was okay. He was in L.A. that time. I tried to get him to come in the ring, and he said, "No way." And I told him I'd make him shine my shoes, and he said, "No way." And Tanaka was with him, and Tanaka, like he was trying to hold him back. But later that night, Mr. T come down to the dressing room and wanted to get a photograph with me. And I don't know, is that in the book? Yeah, I believe the photo is in the book. Me and Mr. T.
You can tell it's a lot of love in that hallway.
Oh yeah. You know, Mr. T about 5 feet tall, and you know, I was 6'6", 6'5". I mean, he didn't ever do nothing to me. He was just trying to get in the action, you know. But he didn't want to climb in the ring. The National Enquirer run a big story about it, that Mr. T refused to climb in the ring with Dr. D when I challenged him to come in, you know. You know, I didn't mind a challenge, man. I challenged people. I didn't mind it at all. Because most of them ain't gonna. There's a few. I ain't gonna say there's none out there that can't beat me, but there's a very few. You know, and they're dying all quick. Every time I read the paper, there's another one going. You know.
Do you ever have any interaction, Dave, with Hogan anymore? Or whatever.
No.
I never heard all the details, but
no. Vince told Hogan. See, when me and Hogan, we would work in Main Event Everywhere.
Oh yeah, a lot of people don't remember, but you were like one of the main guys with Hogan, and you guys had worked Minneapolis before Hogan even went back to WWE, and you were kind of the big tandem. You know, it was kind of the big ticket as far as I heard. You know, and you know, it was right at the very outset of Hulkamania and all that stuff, and you were kind of like, you know, his main running mate, and then all of a sudden that bullshit happened with Stossel, and I remember there's a lot of criticism within the business by the boys, you know, like how come Hogan didn't stick up for Schultz, or why isn't he defending him? Or,
well, Hogan,
I think my dad was saying that too, you know, like how
what
come
happened
Hogan
with
didn't.
Hogan was that I would be in the ring with him, and I'd hook him different ways. And you know yourself, Bruce, you don't want to mess the match up or anything. Guy hooks you, you know you're hooked. You know your guy. He lets you go.
Yeah.
Without anybody knowing it. I mean, you know, and I would do it several times to him different times. He got so mad and so worried, he told Vince that he was scared that I was going to take the belt away from him on the national TV. And I was just messing with him, you know, you know, we was great friends at one time. And then Vince told him, hey, it's either Schultz or me. Either way, you Schultz or me. I don't want you talking to him. I don't want you to be around him. And, you know, while we was in Minneapolis, see, we was Main Event Everywhere. And then Vince takes Hogan
you guys
over
were the big ticket with Vern.
That's right. And then Vince takes Hogan over there, and Vern didn't know Hogan left. So I was doing interviews about Hogan, telling him, hey, if you show up, I'm going to beat you. And if I don't beat you, I'll burn my tights. Never show up again. Anyway, we did that everywhere. Winnipeg, L.A., all the big towns that Vern ran. So now Hogan's at the WWF, and Vince tells me to quit that day, come over. You know, I got a place for me, and, you know, no problem. Everything's going to be taken care of. And Vern didn't even know that. So I was making all them interviews about Hogan in all these towns. Now I go to Vince, and we go to all them same towns where Hogan didn't show up. And I've been telling everybody what a coward he was. He's scared of him and all this, and we kept building on that with Vince. And we were selling out everywhere. You know, I was set up with the Stossel thing, and once you read this book, I mean, you know, people don't understand the Stossel. When you see a tape on Stossel, you don't see all the interviews that Stossel tried to do with me that night. You see one that they wanted you to see. See, he tried to interview me 3 or 4 more times before that, and he couldn't do it. He said, I can't, this guy, he's out of control, you know, because I was rambling on to him. I mean, and then he come out there and he said, I think you're fake, or I think it's fake. I heard, I think you're fake. So now I'm on national TV worldwide. This is not local TV. You know, there's nothing else to do what Vince said. Blast him, tear his ass up, stay in character, be Dr. D. And that's what I did. And, you know, I come back to the dressing room, Vince said, great job, you did a great job. And a few minutes later he come in and said, David, get ready, you're going to do your match now with Antonio Inoki. And he said, hurry up and get this match over and get out of here because they might be wanting to arrest you or whatever. And he said, we're not going to let that happen. Anyway, I got through my match. He said, go on down to the hotel in New York City there, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. And I got down to the hotel. Next morning I went by the office in Stamford, Connecticut. He said, You did a great job, man. That's great. Everything went good. There was no warrant for you. Nobody arrested you or anything. Everything's great. I'm going to send you to Japan, Egypt, different places for a while, let this thing cool down. But you did a great job. So when I got back from Japan a couple of times in Egypt and different places, he called me in his office one day and said, I need you to sign these papers and tell it what really happened. I said, I've already told what really happened, Vince. And he said, oh, no, you got to take the blame for this. This is your, oh, no. You ain't wrote me no check to cover my property and stuff. I did what you asked me to do, and that's what I did. And he said, well, you're never going to work for me if you to go out and say that. I said, well, I'm not going to tell anybody I did anything. And nobody gets a chance to walk out Madison Square Garden and do an interview unless you told them to. And then
exactly.
And in the deposition
would know that, yeah.
That's right. And in the deposition, John Stossel said that Vince told him to come interview me. Vince says he told John Stossel, stay away from me. One of them's a liar. One of them is perjured himself on federal documents, and nothing happened. Now, John Stossel last year on the Stossel Show, this is on Stossel's show now, he was doing a show about crooks and crimes and false things and all this, and he said, I got to tell you, he said, I really felt bad because after I got my money, my injuries was jurosomatic. Jurosomatic means after you get paid, you didn't hurt no more. And that's what he said. On his show,
basically admitting it's at work, yeah.
That's right. He said it was jurosomatic, and I had no more pain after I got paid. I mean, why don't somebody do something about this? Nobody's going to do anything because you can't fight a billionaire. And folks, don't try to fight a billionaire. If you don't have Donald Trump in your pocket or some billionaire, leave people alone. You'll be screwed, blued, and tattooed and dick by the England known of destiny, but leave them alone because you ain't going to win. I hope you figured that out by now. I'm talking to my fans out there right now, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Lord, forgive me for saying that. I just get carried away sometime, and I didn't mean to offend anybody or anything, but that's what's happened. If you don't, my goodness, do y'all follow the news, what's happening in the United States down here?
I do.
What's up?
Oh, my God, all this government stuff, all these, it's awful. Makes me want to move back to Calgary.
It makes me want to send you over to the FBI to clean it up, Doc.
Oh, my goodness, man. Them people now, let me tell you, I can tell you some horror stories about them people. But I don't even want to do that. Afraid I'll be sued for that, I mean, I don't know, Bruce, if you knew it or not, but, I worked in Poland for Sikorsky Aircraft on helicopters.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I ran 2 aircraft plants over there for 3 years for Sikorsky helicopters. And I was the boss. I was the man. And
did you have to fly them, or what were you doing?
No, I was just working. We were just working on the transmissions, the changeover of gears and stuff, for the Polish government. And,
was this before you got into the wrestling, or?
No, they didn't have no wrestling over there. I mean, that would be a wide open country, though, let me tell you. And hard workers, nice people, but there just ain't no money. I mean, it's money for me because I worked for Sikorsky out of the United States, but
I think I was over in East Germany near Poland, Magdeburg, and some of those places, and not much money over there. It was pretty. I think that they were just changing from communist to sort of half capitalism or something. But working class people, though, pretty good people, though. Seemed like they're all
smart. Very, very smart people. I made good friends with most of them couldn't talk no English, and the ones that could talk English were going to school to learn English, but they didn't know what they were saying half the time. They knew how to say hello, good morning, good night, or whatever, but, you had to figure all that out. So, but I worked there for 3 years, had a contract, and when the contract was over, I didn't even want to leave. I told my wife, we need to move over here. It was so nice, But they were very, very smart people. But let me tell you, one thing I found out about the Polish people in these factories, working on these helicopters and transmission stuff, if you went over there and say you had 5 more minutes, 5 minutes finishing a job, and it was 5 o'clock. They're not going to finish it. And they will tell you, tomorrow we finish. Wait a minute, it'll take you 5 minutes to finish this thing. Tomorrow. They would not work 1 minute overtime. And that's the way they was. And they just wouldn't do it. The bell rung, that's it. It's over. Nope, I'm not going to work.
I was going to ask you, Dave, if you ever hook up with any of the Leo Burks or the Cuban Assassin or any of those types of guys?
You know, both them guys are good friends, man. And Cuban, you know, we rode together every day for 3 years up there. He was, I never had a a bad word with him. Never had a cross word with him at all. And, you know, he was always behind you, backing you up. You didn't have to worry about anybody coming from your back.
He had that one issue. I never knew what was about with that Bad News, you know, after you probably heard about it. They had some kind of a fight, oddly enough, at a Denny's. Bad News claimed the Cuban tried to stab him or something like that, and I don't know what the hell was going on. But later on, they're both working for Vince, and I heard it was down in like Rochester or something like that, and they got into a brawl backstage, and Cuban, I heard, tried to stab Alan, or so they said, you know, and then Vince fired Cuban, but yeah, he was always one of my dad's favorite guys, old Angel, you know, pretty hard worker in the ring, and never any trouble with him at all, you know. There's pretty good guys. Never.
Always done his job, always there, and no complaints, you know. He didn't complain about anything, just...
he'd go and take bumps for you all night, and I don't recall him ever potatoing anyone or anything like that either, you know.
No, not unless he wanted to. Not unless he wanted to, and they say, okay, you know. You know, what I'd like to see happen up there is y'all do a wrestling convention, bring all the old guys back in there. These boys doing pretty good at these conventions, signing autographs and stuff, and, you know, pictures, and I think y'all would do good up there doing that.
That might be a great idea. I'd definitely have you at the head of the class. You know, you'd be one of the first guys I'd contact if we did that, you know. And,
yes. You know, everybody thinks you got to get a bunch of people, but, you know, a lot of the guys still live around there, and if they don't live there, you can get in touch with them. They'd be glad to come back, you know.
My dad was always one of your biggest fans, you know.
He's the best. He's the best promoter I ever worked for, and I've told people that all over, man. I said, Stu Hart, tell you something, I got you can bank on it. And you know, and if you had a problem, you talk to him about it. He straightened it out, but he wouldn't go behind your back or anything. He'd tell you to your face, you know. And he's in that book a couple times, ain't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's in the book a couple times, and I don't want people to get that book out there, you know. After I go through this first 10,000 copies, I'll probably pull it off the shelf.
Oh, yeah, I know my brother Brett told me, I saw him just a while back, he told me he's in the book. He said he did a foreword or
yes, he did.
Something in the, yeah.
But the book is very informative. You will, you know, my wife, you know her, Peggy, she's read the book 4 times already. And I told her, I said, why you read it 4 times? She said, I keep getting stuff that I didn't get the first time. And she said, I live this fight, and I still have to read it to see what's going to happen. I said, is that good or bad? Are you losing your mind or what? No, I'm not losing my damn mind. I wanted to eat tomorrow, so I didn't want to ask her nothing else, you know. I mean, you know, Peggy, we've been married 48 years, so I remember one time Stu was in the back of the hall. I got to tell you this, Stu, you probably remember he was in the back where he stood over there at Calgary. And he was trying to show me standing wrist lock, or shooting standing wrist lock. He was trying to get a hold on me what he was trying to do. And I said, oh, no, Stu, I got to go, Stu. And I said, Peggy, come over here. Stu wants to show you something. And he said, yeah, Peggy, let me have your arm in this here. And Peggy said, Stu, let go of me. Lay right there. And she said, don't you ever tell him to do that to me again, David. I said, oh, he wasn't to hurt you. He just won't. I got a kick out of that, you know. But she said, don't you ever tell Stu to hook me again on the arm or something, show me a move. I said, well, I had to go, you know. And, yeah, right. But I tell you, it was a good time. I had a good time. Best place I ever worked, best time I ever had. And I was there almost 3 years, and I loved it.
Now, where can we pick up the book at, John?
My website is eatsleepwrestle.com. I've also got a Facebook page, Eat Sleep Wrestle, and they can also find Dr. D. David Schultz on Facebook. That page is going to link right to his book on Amazon.com, so folks can find him on Facebook. They can get a copy of the book. It's 470 pages. It's just under half of it's about pro wrestling, and the whole rest of it's on bounty hunting. There's over 100 pages of photos from his wrestling days. I mean, some unbelievable pictures and stuff. There's a letter in there from Mr. Saito, about the John Stossel thing. It really, kind of something to give you an appreciation for how everybody looked at David as a hero for what happened in that particular situation.
And what is the name of the book again, John?
Don't Call Me Fake, The Real Story of Dr. D. David Schultz.
And if we want an autographed copy by that purdy doctor, then we go to eatsleepwrestle.com?
Yes, sir, eatsleepwrestle.com.
Great.
I'll tell you, this is the story you're not going to see on the WWE Network. You're not going to see it in any of their books. This is a story that needs to be told. And if you're getting all your wrestling history from just that one source, you're not getting the whole story. And that goes for David's story. That goes for a whole lot of other stories that are out there that I'm hoping to tell, and I know a lot of other historians are wanting to preserve as well. So, but this is a fantastic story. It's a great read. If you're a wrestling fan, even if you're a fan of true crime, and you're a fan of if you're a fan of Dog the Bounty Hunter, pick it up because you're going to see somebody who's, like I said, the bail bondsmen I talked to, they said, if they had a choice, they'd send Dr. D after the guy every time because he always got his man or his woman.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bruce, for again giving us the opportunity to preserve a piece of wrestling history and get some exposure for another fantastic autobiography that's out there for fans to read. If you love Heartbeat Radio, I highly recommend you check out Heartbeat Radio, Stampede Wrestling, and Portland Wrestling on Facebook. And if you want to see the best of Heartbeat Radio with still photos and video added to it, then go to youtube.com/legitprowrestling to check out the best of Heartbeat Radio, and it's very thorough. A fascinating look, and you're guaranteed to learn something if you're a young wrestler banging your head against the wall trying to figure out how to improve yourself.